So I did want to. Oh, hi everybody. Wow, it sounds really exciting. Wonderful. Hi. Okay. So I gotta correct Kim on one thing. We are not pretty amazing. We are just amazing. All right. Yeah. He knows it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you were wrong. Okay, so anyway, my name is Kirk.
My name is Gabriel.
And together we are known as Kinetic Affect. And how many of you have any... Thank you for the clapping. Yep. Shut up. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. So what I would like you to do is this. Raise your hand if you've seen us before. Wow, okay, excellent. Good. So very few of you. You have. Oh, yes. How are you? Nice to see you. I got to tell you this, okay? For those of you who have not seen us, which is almost everybody here, get this, you're in for a treat. We are full-time, professional poets.
Calm down, settle down. I know you're excited.
He over there goes,
you're like, yes.
Inside he's like, oh, hell no. Yeah, it's true. We are poets, that's right. Before I was a poet, as you heard, I was a high school English teacher. I was an English teacher at Portage Northern High School, where I loved teaching. Can you imagine what kind of teacher I was? I was fun. Man, I would jump on desks, sing songs, do everything, have a good time. But I'm telling you what, I met this guy in 2006, and by 2008, I got this great idea to leave my job. Remember 2008? Remember the economy was booming. That's a joke, everybody. It was horrible. It was totally collapsing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to leave my job and become a poet. And I thought it was going to be like, cool thing to follow your heart. I had no idea how much sacrifice following your heart would require. I mean, I remember going home to my wife at the time, and I told her that I remember, I was like, hey, honey, I got a great idea. She goes, yeah, what? And I said, I'm going to leave my job and become a poet. Right? And she goes, no. And I was like, yes, I am, and I did. I left my job, became a poet, and then my marriage collapsed. Yeah, thank you for that. Everyone else is like, yeah, I could see that. Yep, I could see that. They're the only ones that are like, I feel for you. Everyone else is like, yeah, she deserves better, right? So I got to tell you this, right? I'm not gonna say that I was perfect, I mean, I was close to it, but the reality of it is that you just have to sometimes make more sacrifice than you thought. Because not only that, I lost my house. I became homeless. I'm not kidding you. I lost my car. Gone. I didn't even have a place to sleep in my car. So guess what? I had to sleep in an air mattress for a year in his apartment. It fit barely in his office space. But he was nice enough to let me be there. And at the time, not only that, I was raising a son. Do you know what it's like when you don't even have money to buy a toy for your son? I mean, that makes you feel like you're not even a parent, or in my case, father. But I'm not the only one who made sacrifices here.
So at the same time that Kirk decided to leave his job, I was finishing up my undergraduate degree at WMU, and my girlfriend and I were getting ready to move to Chicago because I had an opportunity to go to Columbia College to get my master's degree on a full-ride scholarship.
Wow.
That would have not just paid for my schooling, but also my cost of living. And I decided to turn that down.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
To pursue a full-time career as a spoken word poet.
Okay, so really, if we want to leave you with anything, and state this is especially for you to know, that if you want to really be successful, these two things you got to do. One is abandon education, the other one is leave your job.
That's all we have for today? No, just kidding. Just kidding.
You're in the back going, no, don't do that. No, that's true.
No, but this is what we are saying, is that there's obviously a traditional path that is set forth from the day that we're born, right? We are inundated with this idea and this concept that we are gifted. Go to school, behave, raise your hand, sit quietly, get good grades, graduate, go to college, meet the person of your dreams, get married. There will be a magical job waiting for you that will cover all your cost of living expenses, have kids, white picket fence, a dog, 2 cats, and everything will work out perfectly. Ah, America.
Right? All of you, this is true for a lot of you, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Here's the reality, though. While that works for some people, and that's great, and some people have that ability to just, I'm going to follow the steps that are laid out in front of me, I'm going to walk through that, this works for me, I'm kind of okay with just doing what everybody tells me to do. There are a lot of us where the traditional path just doesn't work. For whatever reason.
Can you imagine me on the traditional path?
And so there's this thing inside of us that just says, I need to do something different. I don't know why I don't connect with this. When I was in high school, I just did not give a, I didn't feel it. I didn't buy into it. There was something that was calling me to do something else.
I had a friend named Ralph Hickmott who did all my homework for me. He made a lot of money that year, I'll tell you, for sure.
There was something in me that just said, it's not working for you. Now, it caused me a lot of difficulty in my life because I didn't want to follow the traditional path, I won't lie. There was a lot of struggle. And there were a lot of obstacles that got in place because we wanted to do something that was non-traditional. We wanted to take a challenge. Some of us get off the traditional path, and it takes us a while to kind of find our route, our way that we want to do things.
It's because society doesn't always want you to veer off the path. And you have to find a way to kind of carve your own. And that can be difficult. But guess what? If you can be rewarded more than anyone else.
But most of the time, that takes you being able to figure out how to navigate those obstacles, how to get around them, over them, under them, through them, whatever it is that your path, your style takes you to, right? So for us, we gave up all these things. We were really kind of freaked out. We were scared. Everyone told us that we were crazy.
Yep. I remember when we applied for our first grant for $500, and they said, no. Why would you ever get that money? That was amazing.
So a year after we had done this, we decided that we were going to try out for America's Got Talent. By show of hands, how many of you ever heard of this show, America's Got Talent? Okay.
Yeah.
For those of you who haven't raised your hand, it's a TV competition show for, various singing, dancing, whatever. It's kind
David
of a,
Hasselhoff was a judge at the time.
It's a smorgasbord of, of
Crazy.
different talented people doing different things, odd things sometimes or whatever. So we go to Chicago, and we try out, and it's nothing like what you see on TV, just so you know. And we go in front of the producers. They love what we do. They send us in front of the executive producers. They love what we do. They send us home for 6 weeks. We get a phone call, followed by an email saying we're going to fly you out to California. And we get a chance to go out to perform in California on America's Got Talent.
Amazing.
Thank you for clapping, but
No.
you're a little preemptive.
Just wait.
So, for those of you who do watch those shows, American Idol, America's Got Talent, whatever, the judges don't come to your city. I know that they edit it and they make it, they're like, we're in Atlanta today, and everyone's going crazy. What they do is they make you wear the same clothes that you wore in the city when you get to California.
No, I'm not kidding.
And you have to put the tag in the same
Exactly
spot.
the same angle and everything.
And then they just edit it together to make it look like when you walk through the door in Chicago, and when you're in California, they cut it together, right? So we're like super excited. We've been there for 3 days. We've been in the back room waiting for like 12
Nick Cannon was like hosting the
hours.
show, and he came up. He's like, guys, we've never had a spoken word group on the stage. And we were like, yeah, we're going to kill it. We're going to kill it. We're going to kill it.
So I'm feeling pretty good about our chances. Sharon Osbourne, David Hasselhoff, and Piers Morgan were the judges at the time, for any of you who know they are.
And we're going right up there after another group went.
And Sharon Osbourne got engaged in Kalamazoo. So I'm like, this is good. We're good. She likes Kalamazoo. She asked us where we're from. We said Kalamazoo. She's like, oh, yeah. Amazing. What do you guys do? And we're like, we do spoken word poetry.
And then they go, David Hasselhoff and Sharon Osbourne collectively go, oh, no.
So we knew we were screwed. But we tried.
We tried, and within the first couple seconds, you know what you hear? And the minute those X's go off, guess what? The whole audience of 3,000 people
is trained to boo.
Boo
and
you
do this.
up.
In between each person.
So,
in the moments you don't see, like
I'm trying to perform
breaks.
in my slacks and my tie like this, and they're just booing me, and I'm like, oh crap, right? And that's it. And then we get 3 X's.
So it's a little bit different than how you see it. They actually have you like compete against other groups, right?
Yeah.
So like the singers compete against the singers, so it's not a full entire show of singers, right? Makes sense. Dancers compete against it, right? All that, musicians, blah blah blah. Well, we got put in the other category because
They didn't know where to put
poets,
us, right? Yeah.
right?
She goes, of course.
So we lost to a burlesque troupe.
Yeah,
So
striptease
that was-
guys.
yeah.
The girls beforehand were like, and they weren't even good. I mean, not that I know, but I got to tell you, they weren't even good, and they beat us. David Hasselhoff.
Because a lot of times, right, this is what we choose or prefer. There are these kind of easier routes or simplistic routes,
Feed
right?
people what they
David
want.
Hasselhoff was very enamored by the burlesque troupe and didn't want to listen to what we had to say, so it was an easy choice for him, right? So Needless to say, being booed off stage by 3,000 people felt like a clear indicator of a sign that we were on the wrong path. Right?
I gotta tell you though,
I don't know if you've ever been booed off stage, ever, but when it's 3,000 people, it is very loud. And it's a very humbling experience.
And those X noises are so loud the ground vibrates, literally. It's to throw you off.
So we went back to our hotels. I was very depressed.
I was actually I was okay because I was I'm a high school English teacher. I feel like a failure every day.
We returned home, and we kind of got back to the grind. We decided, you know what? We're not going to let this failure stop us from doing what we want to do. We got back on the grind. We started looking for other opportunities as we were also being brought out to perform and stuff. And we got a message from the America's Got Talent. And they asked us to come back out the next season.
Because the producers believed in us. And that's what they usually do to get talent. You don't even see them until they eventually make it on and on and on.
So we had an interesting choice to make. We had, at the same time, applied to try out for Amateur Night at the Apollo Theater in New York and got accepted. So we had a decision to make. Do we want to go, again, kind of a more traditional American path of being on this television show versus kind of going somewhere that's a little bit more artistic but less people will see us? And we ended up choosing to go out to Harlem and perform at the Apollo Theater because what we also saw was because we were flown out to California, okay, to perform, that meant that all the people who are horrible on that show also get flown out. So the people, you know how like those people come off stage, they're really angry and you're like, you were terrible. How could you ever think that you would win that show? It's because the producer's been telling them for 6 weeks that they're amazing and to do it just like that. So we thought, we don't want to be a part of something that kind of plays and preys on that. So we went out to New York. We performed at the Apollo. We also lost there too. But while we were there...
you can laugh. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
While we were there...
I was used to it.
There was a place that was really more significant for us. And it was kind of a catalyst for us to kind of start figuring out our own voice and our own thing, right? We've been through these couple of failures, but we come from a thing called slam poetry, which is a competitive form. They have national competitions for this.
I mean, when they do the original, you go to just a random bar, and people randomly at the bar are judges, and basically they can tell you you're horrible or you're great.
So we get booked at the most famous spoken word poetry venue in the world. It's called the Nuyorican Poets Cafe. It's in New York. Even though spoken word was started in Chicago, it really kind of gained its life force in New York. And we happened to get booked at the same time that all 4 national New York teams are competing to make the teams. So we are competing and performing at the same time that pretty much the best spoken word poets in the world are competing all in the same room. And we got more love and crowd response from the audience than any of the New York poets. So we immediately were like, oh, we're good. We're better than a lot of these people who win nationals, right? But anytime that you are consistent at doing something different, you're challenging yourself, you're going off the beaten path, there's always going to be people who want to bring you down.
Haters.
There's always going to be people who want to tell you, you can't achieve your goals, your dreams. You can't do this, right? So this guy comes up to us after the show, and he says, I love what you guys do.
Thank you.
You guys are very talented, but have you lost your minds? And
Seriously.
what he's implying in that question is the decisions we made, right? Kirk leaves this job. I turned down this scholarship. And in America, we define success traditionally in a very small box. Actually, what I'd like you to do is on the count of 3, I want you to just yell out the number 1 way you think we define success in America. 1, 2, 3. Money, right? Most people think that money is the key to success, right? It doesn't matter if you're a horrible human being. If you have money, you're successful. It doesn't matter if you take advantage of every person in the community. If you have money, you're a successful person. It doesn't matter what you did or how you got to where you are. Somehow, what you have in your bank account has become the epitome of the numeric way in which we define success. Which is crazy to me.
Which is why you got to get your high school diploma or your GED. It was why you got to go to college. It's why you got to do this stuff, because so you could get the money.
So he asked this question And I'm kind of like, oh, I get it. I get why what we did is so scary to people. It makes them uncomfortable because we've essentially gone against the grain of everything that we've been taught, right? That this is what the only thing you have to do in order to be successful. Now, at the time we didn't have an answer for him, but we had a long drive from New York back to Michigan, and we ended up writing a response to him that kind of started to fuel the way in which we approached a lot of our performances, a lot of our shows, and a lot of the audiences in which we speak to now. So we'd like to perform that piece to you to give you an example of what it is that we do.
So this is to that anonymous man in New York who told us that we were crazy, and to anyone and everyone out here who has ever been called crazy for following their heart.
He asked me if I had lost my mind.
Told me if I had, then perhaps,
And if I wanted him to,
he could help me to find it again. I said, well, it's funny you should ask, because in fact, I did lose it some time ago.
I'm not sure exactly when, but I do know it was somewhere amidst a society that has become accustomed to placing the value of money
high above the value of life. In a place where the name brands of our clothes and the shoes on our feet will help outweigh the egocentric attitude.
An unlikable person we become. Where the bling bling that dangles from our bodies is now believed to be more beautiful to gaze upon than the
passion that resides in our eyes. So I don't want you to help me find my mind, because as long as it remains lost, I will never be able to figure out the equation that tells me the size of the ring that I place on my wife's finger.
Equally the amount of love I possess for her. Man, I must have been asleep for most of my life. Because when exactly do we begin defining who we are as people by the amount of money we make?
When a simple bum on the street could tell us so much more about real life
than a baby with a silver spoon. And I told him that life often makes me laugh because I once met a woman who wouldn't even give me the time of day.
Until she happened to ask me for the time of day.
And when I lifted up my arm, she thought that the time of day looked so nice and shiny on my wrist
that suddenly she
had all the time in the day for me. But I guess this is how our minds are supposed to work. So I asked him if we could try something. If we could take all the money out of our wallets, hold it in our hands, and raise our arms towards the sky. Asked him if he thought someone would be able to tell us what we were worth.
If they happened to be looking at us from the view of a bird's eye.
And would you be able to tell me who I was by the amount of money that was matched, held tight in my fist?
Well, what if when I pulled my hands from my pockets and extended my palms, I was holding in them something that most would see
as nothing?
Would you judge me?
Or would you be one of those people who was able to see
that my hands were not at all empty? So again, I told him no. I don't want you to help me find my mind.
But perhaps...
And if you want me to, I can help you to lose yours. Thank you.
Yeah, you're good.
Yay! All right, so, did you like that? Was that pretty cool? Do you want to see me do a cartwheel? No.
No, please. I would like him to make it through the rest of the performance.
When we go to the really
right.
tough schools, like in Detroit, I do crazy things like right away. I'll be like, okay, all right, here we go. And I go, pop, lock, and drop. And the kids are all like, oh my God, no. Because guess what? That craziness that I have is my passion for life. And I have it now. Because there was a time when I didn't. Because I've always been a little different. Some of you are like, it's obvious. Thank you. It's true. Because I got to tell you, let's go back in time a little bit to when I met him. Because when I met him, I wasn't there yet. He was like Buddha. He was there. He was there a long time ago. He was born there. But me, I wasn't there. See, I got to tell you, when I first met this guy, I'm just going to be honest with you, okay? I didn't like him. I mean, look at his clothing. Look at the way he dresses. Look at it compared to me. I mean, what could he possibly know about my life? This is how we work in our society anyway. This is how I was born and raised. Different color skin, different kind of clothes, different neighborhood, different everything. I don't know you. You don't know me. That's how we work. That's how I worked. Plus, not only that, we were competing against each other. Now, you tell me, guys, okay, so in a competition, how many first places are there? Mine. Right? That's how we function. It's mine. See, in this world, it's crabs in a barrel. Only one to the top. And I'm going to pull you down. You're going to be number 2, if not last. So while the whole time he was up there performing, talking about his experiences in life and being oh so Buddha-ish up there, I was smiling, nodding, pretending to listen, thinking, I hope he fall off stage. That's what we do. Half the time when other people are talking, we're thinking about what we are going to say, what we have to provide. Well, at least that was me. See, but I told you, I missed something. Something that would change my life forever. And it lies below his shirt. No, don't think weird. I mean, it is physical. It's for real. You can't imagine this. If Gabriel were to take off his shirt, now don't get excited, it's not that kind of show, but if he were to take off his shirt, what you'd see would shock you. It's what looks like one scar. Starts right here at the top of his chest, travels all the way down past his navel. Literally looks like he had an autopsy, been cut in half. Here I am judging this guy, thinking we have nothing in common, without realizing he has something to teach me, something to show me. And what I'd like him to do is share that experience with you now.
So, even though I call Kalamazoo my home now, I was originally raised in New York, and loved the community where I was at. Didn't come from a lot. Moved around from one-room apartment to trailer home. I mean, that we split with another family. We came from a lot of poverty, but I was taught and raised around a community that was full of diversity, not just of people, but of ideas, cultures, religions, the ways of life, and I was taught to learn from and be open to other people. And so I loved where I grew up, and I loved learning from people, and I loved being able to see that, yes, we are different, we have a lot of similarities, but we can all kind of connect and learn from each other and teach each other the beauties of what we got raised with. When I was 7, my parents started to go through the process of divorce. And my mother's family, my father's Hispanic and my mother's Italian. My mom was raised in a large Italian family here in Kalamazoo. She was one of 13 kids, middle child of 13. So she wanted to be closer to her family. And so for the next 4 years in a row, I went to 4 different schools. So every single year, we moved, new school, make friends, lose friends, yada, yada. So at 10 years old, I landed at the school that I eventually ended up graduating from. And I understand as a 10-year-old that every single person who comes into my life is going to leave me. My own dad didn't want to stay in my home. Every single year I have to move and make new friends. So the mantra that I begin telling myself is, trust no one, do it on your own, don't let them get close. And this is how I begin to live out the rest of my school life. And what that did was started to attract other people around me who thought the same way. And I started to bring people into my life who were definitely going to leave, and people who I knew I couldn't trust, so that I would always do things on my own. And I befriended this guy, who became my best friend. I looked up to him like an older brother, and I got involved in drugs, alcohol, gangs by the time I was 13. By the time I was 14, I started selling drugs. By the time I was 16, I had people working for me selling drugs. So I was always very street savvy, very smart, always wanting to try and figure out how to kind of navigate around and through the system, right? I didn't put a lot of effort into my high school career, and by the time I was a senior, I had pretty much pissed away all my opportunities, all my academic opportunities, all my sports opportunities. And going into my senior year, there was a life-altering experience that I had. It wasn't super traumatic or anything, but something that started to make me see things slightly different. So all these bad things that I'm doing, and my mom's dad, my grandfather, passes away. And even though I was making a lot of bad choices, my family always knew that I loved to write. In fact, how many of you guys have ever heard of mock elections? It's like in a school where they vote you most likely to whatever, succeed, be president, whatever, all that. My senior year of high school, I got voted class bully and class poet of my high school. That tells you kind of the odd inter-battle that I was having with myself, right? So my family asked me to read this piece that I wrote for my grandfather at his funeral. And when I get up at the podium, it's the first time that I realize it's standing room only. The whole entire venue is packed. People standing against the walls, sitting on the floors. Now this is his father had come from Italy, so it's first generation American Italian. He ran a pie store in Richland and didn't have much money. 13 kids, if you can imagine what that takes. Not one person stood up on that stage and mentioned one material item he had, how much money he had in his bank account, or any of those things. It was all about how he was able to make an impact in his community. How he was always willing to set another place at the table, even though he had all those kids. How he always welcomed everybody, no matter what they thought, no matter what their background was, no matter what their belief system was. And I realized that I had been making all these decisions and actions based on this other thread of information that I had been given about what success means in our country. And it was very impactful for me. So, senior year of high school, I've already messed up so much. I don't really have much choices. My best friend growing up is actually right now serving 18 to 42 years in a level 4 maximum security prison because he didn't change the things that we were doing. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I bump into this Army recruiter, and he starts telling me about all the things that, you can kind of start over, you can travel, you'll have pay, all this stuff. And I'm like, this is my opportunity to start over. It's my opportunity to get away. I enlist in the military. I graduate basic training, my job training. I get stationed overseas in Germany for my first duty station. I'm doing really well. Life's getting back on track. I'm starting to figure things out. And I go to the clinic for a routine checkup because I'm going to be doing a lot of traveling around Europe. And the doctor sits me down in his office and he says, Gabriel, he says, I want to send you to the major medical facility in Landstuhl, Germany tomorrow because I have some bad news. He says, I think that you have cancer. And so the next day, that was a Monday, the next day, Tuesday, I go to Landstuhl. They run more blood work, ultrasound. You have cancer. Thursday, I have my first surgery. Saturday, they fly me back to the United States to Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington, D.C. for 2 weeks for more checkups. They do a full CAT scan, more blood work. Doctors come in the following Monday. Gabriel, we have more bad news. Not only do you have cancer, but it's spread throughout your entire body. You have a 14 by 6 centimeter mass of cancer in your abdomen. It's moved behind your lungs, into your neck. It's working its way towards your brain. If it had been another month before we found this, there would have been nothing that we could do. We'd be sending you home on terminal leave. We have to start chemotherapy tomorrow. So 2 weeks turned into 3 years. I went through 4 cycles of chemotherapy, 4 major surgeries, dozens of minor procedures. 2 of the surgeries left me with the scars that Kirch mentioned. One where they had to split me from my sternum, below my belly button. They had to cut my abs in half, take out all my lymph nodes, take out the masses that were left. The other where they had to split me from the bottom of my neck to the same spot of my sternum, crack my chest plate open, and take out my thymus gland. Now, I was 18 when I was diagnosed. I was 21 by the time I got my clean bill of health. So this is an extremely traumatic experience for me. I can't imagine anybody having a worse life, worse experience. Woe is me. No one has it worse. Except one of my surgeries happened to be on September 10th of 2001 in Washington, D.C. So I wake up the next day to 9/11. And that's 6 months in my battle with cancer. So for the next 2.5 years, not only am I going through my own battle, but I'm watching soldiers return home from the Afghan and Iraq war without legs, without arms, full of bullet holes. There was a guy on my hospital floor who had 90% body burns over his entire body. He was the lone survivor in an IED explosion where he lost all of his friends. And what I gained from that, and the reason why I share that, is because it put things into perspective for me. Yeah. Yes. Was I going through a difficult time in my life? Hell yes. Would I wish that on anybody? No, never. Would I trade that experience for anything? Not a chance in the world. Because it taught me that no matter what you go through, no matter how bad you have it, 1, there's always somebody who's going through something worse. And 2, those people can actually inspire you to be better. I watched soldiers roll up to formation with no legs, ready, dressed, BDUs, iron pressed. I'm here to serve. What can I do? And I thought, wow, there's something to learn from these people that I feel bad for. And I realized there's something that I can do. I don't know what it is, but when I go home, I want to be able to make some kind of impact. So I get out of the military in 2003, and the doctors give me my clean bill of health, but they give me one more bit of bad news that kind of drives home the way the rest of my life would play out. And they said, you're clean, you're clear, all your tests came back. However, because of how far your cancer was progressed and the kind of treatment that we had to pursue, the types of chemo that we had to give you because your cancer was so aggressive, you have a 65% chance of getting leukemia in the next 15 to 20 years. So I was 21 when they told me that. I'm 35 now. So I am 1 year out from starting that 15 to 20 year time period, right? So as I get out, as most happens to 18-year-olds or 19-year-olds or whenever it is that you decide that you're going to go to college, everyone's like, what's the question they ask you? What are you going to do, 18-year-old who has life all figured out and now you know what you're going to do for the next 60 years of your life, right? What are you going to do for college? What are you going to do for the rest of your life? And I realized as I was getting out of the military and everybody started asking me that question that sometimes we so overcomplicate that question, right? We have to figure out the specific thing that we want to do. And I went, you know what? My answer started being when people asked me that was, I'd like to be happy. What are you going to do? I would like to be happy. And I realized the one thing that I always enjoyed more than anything else that everyone told me I would never be successful at was writing. I loved writing. I always found just this home in the page. I could be honest with it. It never looked at me weird. I could just let everything out and be real in that moment. And I was like, I'm going to go to school for writing. I went to school for writing, and this person came up and told me about, a friend of mine in class was like, I think you would love this thing called slam poetry. You should go out. They have these national competitions for it, and Kalamazoo has a national team. And I went, and I fell in love with it. And I tried out, and I qualified to participate in the national competition, meaning I was able to try out for the national team. And when you do that, you meet all the other people who qualified. And in walks this loudmouth, crazy Verizon salesman-looking dude.
Yeah, that's me, everybody. I think you figured that out. Yep. Okay.
And I judged him. And I judged him for the same reasons that he judged me. For oftentimes the same reasons that we are having a really difficult time in our culture right now. Because he didn't look like me. He didn't sound like me. He didn't dress like me. He didn't act like me. And I thought, there's no way that this dude, the way that he dresses and talks, could understand or have any comprehension of what I've been through in my life. Now, the lucky thing for us, the ironic thing for us, is we were competing against each other to make the same team. So we ended up making a national team of 5 members to represent Kalamazoo, and we had to work together. So we had a choice. We could continue thinking whatever it is that we wanted about each other.
It was hard for a while.
Or we could actually listen to each other and try and see where the commonalities fit. And somehow, through just being real, honest, and open, we found so many commonalities between ourselves. But if we would have let those initial judgments prevent us from actually hearing what we had to offer, 10 years later, not only would we not be best friends, not only did I not have the opportunity to stand as his best man with his current wife, but...
Yeah, it's working out, everybody. Just let you know.
But he's also someone who allows me to wake up every day of my life, honor my grandfather, honor those soldiers who inspired me, and feel like I'm actually able to do something that makes a difference in my community and around my state.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Powerful. It's an amazing, amazing story. And one you wouldn't know just by looking at him, just like, looking at you. People don't know. And until either they get to know you or you share. And that's the power of who we are. You know, we take people for granted, the people we're sitting next to right now. And the person who we take granted for the most, do you know who that is? Ourselves. That's right. Most of the time, for me, I realize that we set ourselves up for failure. That's what I did. And even maybe sometimes that's what you would do. So, what I want to tell you is like, look, okay, so I had judgments about him. I mean, right, okay. And he had judgments about me because I looked really good. And so I get it, right? I get it. Like, but when I walked up here, I could tell that all of you were judging me. You are not hard to read. I know exactly what you were thinking. You were thinking, man, he's perfect. Kim, thank you very much. Yeah. No, maybe not, right? But you see the way we dress, right? Look at me. I'm a professional. I don't have any flaws. Got my shoes and my tie, my tie bar, my frat boy-like hair. See, what I want you to do is I want you to see this and not this. Because sometimes to share this is the scariest thing of all. Because what if you see my scar and you don't love me? What if you realize that, I was a hood rat growing up. I had no money, ate out of cans, was beaten as a child, went through every kind of abuse as a child. See, I carry that within me. You can see it sometimes. I'm all funny now, right? Like I dance. Oh, hell, knock that off. Look at that. I'm fancy. I got to tell you, right? So, I do crazy things. I love it. When I was a teacher, I'd twerk it in class. I would. I had fun. But I had students that could see the reality of who I am. Actually, as a matter of fact, I had a student one year wrote me a letter. And this student, by the way, went on to Princeton. He was amazing. Exactly the opposite of the way I was when I was in high school. And he wrote me a letter. He goes, Mr. Latimer, that's me. He goes, your class was crazy and wild. I never thought I'd learn anything in it, but I learned more in your class than I've ever learned in my entire life, and I didn't expect it. And he went on and on. It was this beautiful letter until I got to the very end. And then he ended with, but who are you really? I was thinking, you bastard. You caught me. He writes this really beautiful letter. I'm going to go home and put it on my refrigerator, but here it says, who are you really at the end? What do you mean, who am I really? I'm a husband, a child on the way. My life is perfect. No. I'll take you back to when I was a little kid, okay? Just so you know a little bit of who I am, because I like to talk about myself. So here I am. I'm a little kid. I am in second grade, okay? And, any of you here, were you really attached to an object when you were young? Attached to anything? Yeah. Do you remember what you were attached to? What was it? Your thumb. I know, me too. Actually, the dentist said that's one of the reasons I have this gap in my teeth. He was lying. I always had it. My dad used to do? He used to put cologne on my thumb. And when I would wake up in the morning, I'd be like, ugh, disgusting. I know what Old Spice tastes like. Okay, so what else? What else have you been attached to? A blanket? A blanket? Anything? Yeah, beautiful. So here, for me, I was attached to my earmuffs. She's like, well, that's weird. Yes, my earmuffs. And I remember in second grade, I lost them at school. Now, as a sensitive boy, guess what I did? Yes, I did. And I didn't just oh, my earmuffs are gone. I was in that, everything is falling apart. Right, snot is coming out of my nose. Everything is all wet. It's disgusting. And everyone, when I was a kid, used to make fun of me. Now, when you're a boy and you're sensitive, remember what other little boys do and tell you? Oh, you're a little, can you fill in the blank? Don't do it out loud. You know it. I was called everything under the sun. And I knew in this moment they were going to make fun of me because I was crying in class. But I wasn't going to stop crying over those earmuffs. So instead, I was like, okay, a real man can cry, right? What can a real man cry about? Okay. So I thought about this for a while, and I was like, okay, when they come up to me, I remember I told everybody this. My teacher, all the students in my class, my friends who lived in the same neighborhood, the principal, and even the assistant principal. I told them, they'd be like, Kirk, why are you crying? And I'd be like, I would be like, my dad died. Some of you are like, that is bad, right? Some of you are laughing, right? No, this is really stupid. You want to know why? Here's particularly why. I had never done this before. I had never lied. I wasn't really thinking too far ahead because later that afternoon, my father picked me up from school. I remember I was standing outside. I had my Ninja Turtles backpack on, and I was waiting for my dad to pick me up, right? And I'm here with all my friends, and then here he comes around. My dad had, those Woody station wagons? He had that one, and here it was coming around. You couldn't miss it. Shiny Woody station wagon coming around. And my friends were like, isn't that your dad? And I was like, Dad! And I went running to the car, and I jumped in the car, and I gave my dad a kiss and a hug, which we never did, and I was like, Dad, I love you. Let's get the hell out of here right now. And we took off. Funny story, right? Because I got to tell you, I like telling it as funny, because my life was not funny growing up. How many of you here grew up poor? You willing to share? How many grew up poor? Okay. How many of you grew up, how many of you willing to share whether or not you grew up with some kind of a hurt, abuse as a child? Anyone willing to share that? Okay? And some of us are not willing to share that, but I can tell you, I went through everything. So for those of you who are remaining silent, I want to let you know, I've been through it all. I was taught to be a monster by my family. I was taught to be something that I wasn't. I was a sensitive little boy when I was in 2nd grade. And then here I am. By the time junior high turns around, I meet a friend in science class. His name is Jack, and he is cool, and I am fat. I mean, not so fat and wouldn't trip and roll away or anything like that. Not like that's a problem, because the reality is I should have been happy with who I was. But kids, boy, don't they like pointing out things that they don't like about you. So here I was, fat kid sitting in the back with his friend Jack, who was popular, and I was not. So Jack wanted to teach me to be tough. So in science class, in the back of class, we would constantly play bloody knuckles. You guys ever played that? That's a man game, man. We would just beat the living crap out of each other's knuckles. And we had fun doing that. Kim, you're giving me a weird look. It was a man thing. Now get this. So one day, because he's trying to teach me to be popular and tough, he actually told me how to dress. He told me what stores to go to, how to walk, how to talk, how to do all these things to be cool. So slowly but surely, I was getting more, getting a little bit more like along with other people. Fitting in with the crowd, right? Like we said, fitting in. And I was not meant to fit in, but here I am trying really hard. And Jack, one day we're playing bloody knuckles. And man, I am going crazy because I don't have anything to lose. So I beat his hand literally down to the bone. It's bleeding all over. You can literally see the bone through his skin. And he stopped and pulled away this time. I normally did. And he said, Kirk, now you're tough. And I was like, yeah, now I'm tough. Because later, the next year, was my first major fight. I was still a little pudgy, but I wore cool clothes. I had a silk shirt on in gym. Okay, don't judge. Silk was popular at one time. Do you remember that? Okay, I had a silk shirt on. This kid came up to me in gym without realizing how tough I was. And he grabbed my shirt, and he ripped it open and called me a fat fill in the blank. In front of everybody. And I had like little man boobs hanging out and everything, my gut. And you know what I did? Guess what I did to him right then and there? Guess what I did? What do you think I did? No, what I did is I wanted to punch him, but really I didn't know what to do, so I like open hand slapped him across the face like this. I was like, ee! And he he didn't even really move. He was just like he was confused. He was looking at me, he's like, what are you doing? So you know what he did? He knew what to do. He went, bam, socked me right in the face. I was like, oh my God. I was like, why would you punch me in the face? All I did was slap you. You need to slap me back. So guess what I did? After that point, I realized I had something. I have intensity. So just as much as I like to be funny and have fun, I can be that angry. And so I grabbed him by the neck. And I was like, ooh, you're going to go there? I'm going to choke you. Funny, right? I choked him. I put him down in a headlock. And I held him like this. And I beat his head against the locker. Over and over and over again until he went completely numb. And I dropped him on the floor. Guess what I did right then and there? Some of you are like, I would have kicked him. Nope. I cried. Because that was the kid I was. I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to hurt this boy. He made me, I thought. Well, life is going to continue to make you do things. And it continued to make me believe it was making me do things. You know what? All these people who hated me when I was in grade school, made fun of me when you called me that, when you called me fat, when you called me whatever you did, they were my friends now. Because I was dealing drugs just like Gabriel. I was dealing good stuff for my family. And so all my friends would come to me, including Jack, the one that I played Bloody Knuckles with. They'd be like, hey man, give me money, I'd give him drugs. Until everything fell apart. And one of the reasons why I'm here doing this today, why I became a teacher, is because my senior year of high school, in 1998, we became national news. They called us. You know the news are good with those like headlines, flashy headlines? They said, suicide high. Because that year, 5 of my friends took their life in a 3-month time period. And the school and the community was so concerned. They were like, what is going on? So they ran autopsies on all the bodies to see if they had any common element. And guess what their common element was? They were all high at the time they did it. Guess who dealt them their drugs? That's right. So in many ways, I was terrified at the time, but I was seeing my friends die. I wasn't really crying a whole lot about it, but I was certainly feeling it. And I was watching this happen. I remember one of my friends even took his life on my birthday. I couldn't celebrate my birthday until I met this guy because I became ashamed of who I was. Don't be ashamed of who you are. It doesn't matter how many scars you have. It doesn't matter what person told you what. Ignore those negative voices in your head. They are not real. I used to believe them. Kirk, you're nothing. Kirk, you're worthless. Because when you feel worthless, boy, you can achieve a lot physically. But when you actually believe you're worth something, it's scary. Because you want to protect it. You want to hold on to it. And I've learned something. I've learned that by following this path, by listening to him, I don't have to be ashamed of who I am. You want to know why my wife left me? Some of you are like, no, I actually don't want to know why, but I will tell you. Because when I met her, I was 19. I took all of this that I had, everything of my story that you hear now, she did not know until I met him. I lied to her. And when you lie to other people, you're lying to yourself. When I learned to embrace all these things about myself and not be ashamed of where I was, I became something else. I became a better teacher. I became a better father. I became a friend. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of friends. Luckily, I have someone like this. Trust me, I'm hard to deal with. Some of you can probably tell, right? The reality is, I'm going to say, like, if you have things go on in your life, they don't ever really go away. These things that you have to work on, do you have things you're working on? You're like, ooh, my anger. Ooh, I'm lazy. Whatever it is, you got to continue to battle it. I have a lot of battles to fight. But guess what? I'm prepared. I want to fight because I believe it's worth it.
So one thing that we kind of took from our experience and one thing that enabled us to be able to do what we do now is recognizing that oftentimes we had to suffer. We had to fail. There were lessons in those moments. How many of you, by a show of hands, either have felt or have a friend who consistently says something like, I don't know why blank always happens to me? Right, okay? Most of the time, there's a lesson to be learned in there. There's a message. There's something that either we are doing, we're putting out there, or we're attracting to ourselves that puts us continuously in these same spots. Now, a lot of times, the easiest thing to do is to focus externally. It's to externalize it. Well, they did this, or they did that, or this happened, and this was the circumstance. The hardest thing to do is to recognize and go, how was I a part of that? What did I contribute to this? And one of the difficult things for us was to take those traumatic experiences that we went through and figure out what it was that we did to contribute to that so that we could learn the lesson and move on from it. Most of the time when those people say, I can't believe this keeps happening, it's going to keep happening because you can't believe it keeps happening because you're not looking at what's actually happening.
Can I ask this group a question? Are we talking to the choir? Am I? I want to know. Like, are you already going to make it? Are you going to make it through this? Are you going to make it through GD? I mean, you showed up here, right? So what are we going to provide? Right, exactly, for sure. That's good. So please understand this. The people that are not here, there were a lot of people who didn't choose to be here. You chose to be here. I mean, I want to ask you this question just so you understand the reality of the fact that if I'm already speaking to the choir, good, elevate it further. But I don't want to miss those other people too. It's part of your responsibility to stand as a role model for those people. Because there's a lot of people out there who feel like it's hopeless, who don't feel like it's important. I just want to recognize that for a moment.
So this idea has kind of become a part of what we do. Actually, actually it's not a couple anymore. 9 years ago, we co-founded a nonprofit organization together. It's called Speak It Forward. And we do a lot of work with at-risk youth. So we're in juvenile homes, treatment facilities, and we're trying to do more preventative work. We're trying to reach them before they reach the prison systems or go on and kind of do all these things. But a lot of the things that they've been through in their lives, I can't believe that they've made it that far. Like, people drive by a juvenile home, prison, or whatever, and we hear the reaction, oh, they deserve to be there, they whatever. Man, hearing some of the stories of survival,
I mean,
or
how many
things that
people
they've
here?
been through, it is incredible that they've made it to this point.
Yes.
And I try and remind them that, yes, sometimes going through struggle actually puts you at an advantage. There are a lot of people that don't know what real obstacles look like. And so when things happen to them in their lives, they fall apart. I know that there may not be an ideal situation, right, that you're sitting in right now. But I promise you there's a lesson there. I promise you there's gold in that dirt. But you have to be willing to look. And so we have a piece that we'd like to perform for you that kind of honors that.
If you haven't failed in life, you haven't lived. Because failure tells us that we've taken a risk.
That we're still challenging our own limitations. It's only when you cross the boundary of your comfort zone that you begin to open the lid of who you are.
And rid yourself of the box that everyone tells you to think outside of.
And history favors the risk takers.
Because only those who risk going too far can find out how far we can actually go.
You'll never read about anyone throughout history who successfully inspired change.
Because they followed the crowd.
Because they challenged themselves. Because they cared too much
about what other people thought about them.
Remember that your time is limited. So don't waste it living someone else's life. It's only when you jump blindly from your nest that you can experience the act of flying.
You just have to be willing to spread your wings and trust that you were meant to soar to heights you never thought possible from the comfort of your fear.
Don't allow the things that scare you to keep you grounded. Instead, become like the Wright brothers after their first crash and be willing to collide into the dirt.
To turn the toughest moments of your life into the burst of wind you need to get you airborne.
So that one day you can see what the bottom looks like from the clouds.
And know that just because your eyes can't see past the horizon,
it doesn't mean that the world ends at the sunset.
They won't teach you this in school.
You can't sign up for Failure 101, only audit and observe, so when you graduate,
you can navigate the real world. The place where 99% of the things you will experience aren't taught.
The place where you will realize that the rules and lessons you learned in school
don't apply. Because the people who become the most successful in school are the students who make the fewest mistakes.
But in life, the most successful professionals are the people who learn to turn their mistakes into masterpieces. Artists who have discovered that you can't really figure out how something works until you
break
it
apart. And they'll probably call you crazy for your beliefs, because that's what passion inspires.
It inspires the outrageous,
the wild,
and it turns the impossible into the incredible.
Like cell phones and spaceships.
Or sharing parts of yourself with complete strangers, and in the
becoming
process, becoming friends. That's what happens when you take risks.
Sometimes you create amazing things that change the way we live, but often we fail.
You have to. Because success and failure, they hold hands. You just have to be willing to jump off the deep end. Because pearls don't lie on the seashore.
If you want one, you have to dive to the bottom and take it. It's only when you dig deep they can plant the seeds that will grow into something beautiful.
That will guarantee that when you wake up in the morning,
you still feel alive. It doesn't matter where you start.
It doesn't matter where you end.
What matters most
is what you do in between.
The steps it took you to get to wherever you are.
And the times you got back up after you fell.
So dust yourself off. Start chasing your dreams.
And start living a life that will leave you with a smile on your face and a strong heartbeat in your chest.
And start that life today. Start by taking a risk.
Start by learning from your failures.
And start to appreciate the scars you have that remind you that you lived a life worth living.
Mission Home Anthem. See? Yeah, I think we should do one time to do Mission Home Anthem.
Okay, sure. Yay. You know how many times we screwed up here? We have screwed up a lot. I looked at Gabriel after the first poem, and I was like, I'm sorry. And he's like, it's okay. In the beginning, we used to screw up a lot, too. Do any of you screw up? Obviously, you do. I can see that. I'm just kidding. I'm joking, right? We all screw up. See, the thing is, in the beginning, when I used to screw up, and I still occasionally battle this, but when you screw up, you focus on it. You could do really well all day, like you walked perfectly all day, until at one point, you slipped in the ice and you broke your butt. It's the one part that you did wrong that we focus on. And so I would leave a performance with Gabriel and I'd be like, oh, man, we sucked. They saw how bad we were. That's always used to what I think. And we come back out and people are like, they were amazing. But we're like, what about that one mistake we made? They're like, what mistake? And we're like, oh, never mind. Now, to be a professional doesn't mean being great all the time. It means being good all the time. It means being okay with not being perfect. Taking the imperfections and using them as fuel. If you have an imperfection, that's what makes you beautiful. Your scars. This scar on him, a lot of people would be like, it's ugly. That's ugly about you. If I were to talk about my abuse as a child, that's an ugly thing in your past. You know what? Was it good? No. But guess what? It's part of what makes us beautiful. So if you are here, if you are trying to battle through something, you're like, man, I'm not good at this. I'm not good at math. So what? Ask Gabriel. I'm not good at math. He does the finances. If I were to do them, we would not be here right now. I would be in Mexico. You know what I mean? I'd be gone. I'm a spender, man. I will give my money away. Gabriel likes holding on to it. Gabriel's Scrooge, okay? And the reality is we work well together. Once you realize that your flaws are in fact what make you beautiful, that's what attracts the right person to you. Because normally when I walk out there and I'm attracting people, I attract all the wrong people. Women, a lot of the wrong women. She's like, yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah, for sure. But this was an accident. This is why this is amazing. Because when you let go of all that facade, you will find the person in your life that you're meant to be with. People that you are meant to be around.
Have any of you ever heard of critics math? Critics math? It's 1,000 compliments plus 1 critique equals 1 critique. I don't know why it is so much easier for us to focus on the negative, right? Maybe it's a survival thing in our DNA, right? Before we had all this, it was that's bad, you focus on that so you don't die. I don't know. But I feel like it's time to let go of that. We don't need to always focus on the things that are so terrible about us. They consume us.
And I feel like people who do focus on that will try to ignore theirs and focus on yours, right? Right? Have you seen that happen occasionally in your life? Yeah.
Now, the problem with this is when we focus on the negative, when we forget about the positives that we have, we start to embody that, right? If I wake up in the morning and the first thing I think is, I'm a terrible person, that's going to start to influence the way that I go about my day. If I say, I'm worth it, I'm good, I might eat a healthier meal. I don't know. Maybe I might exercise. Maybe I might do my thing. Whatever it is, your thing that makes you feel good.
Maybe you might get a tattoo that says, I'm worth it.
Yeah. Right? But when we go about this time as a negative, then we start to do those things. I am worthless. Therefore, the actions that I take throughout the day resemble that. I don't take care of myself. I put others way before me. I do all these things that start to do what's called a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Well, why don't most people do this then? Why don't people do this? If it really is just like being like, okay, I'm okay with myself. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try things, even if I fail. Why don't people do it? I mean, are we going to die from failing math? No. I mean, I'm not saying risk. Don't jump off a cliff, literally, into water that you don't know how deep it is. That's not what I mean. What I mean is asking you, like, what is it? I'll tell you what. It's pain. People don't want pain. No pain. I don't want pain. Life is pain. The minute you're born, you begin to die. You ever thought about that? The reality is that you have to learn to endure the pain, because otherwise you will not grow.
Here's an interesting concept that we talk about a lot with the students, right? How many of you like to work out? Is there anybody in here who enjoys working out? Okay,
Me.
Great. When you're working out, what is it that you like to do when you work out? Just one thing. Dance?
Oh, dance.
Oh, cool.
Very nice.
So,
Pilates or real dancing? Oh, nice.
Zumba.
Nice.
Okay. How do you know, aside from like maybe you're breathing heavy or sweating or whatever it is when you're getting but how do you know when you've gotten a really good workout? Oh, when there's a sense of soreness, right?
And not bad soreness. Not like your leg is gone.
Of pain, right? You're like, oh my God. Or if you're someone who likes to lift weights, right? You go until you start to feel that burn, right? Then maybe you do a couple more, right? Whatever thing your exercise is, you know you're growing when you feel that pain, okay? Intellectually, we study for tests. We get ready for college. We have to do these projects. You know that stuff is starting to get in there or you care about it because you start to feel that stress of finishing, of doing well, of accomplishing it. It adds a certain heightened level of intensity to your life, right? Can we all agree on that? Okay, so physical growth requires some pain. Intellectual growth requires a little bit of stress, right? Emotional. What happens when we feel emotional pain?
I drink alcohol.
Right. We find our vice.
Right?
It could be as simple as television, or maybe I like to go, eating. Maybe I like to go out and buy myself something nice. Whatever it is, right? We figure out an immediate way to avoid that growth. So I don't know what it is or why it is that we have begun to teach this in our society, but it's like, okay, you want to get better physically? Go to a gym. Great, cool. You want to get smarter? Go to college, go to high school,
Tough
get
classes,
your GED,
yeah.
whatever. Yeah, great. Emotional growth, not so much. Oh, you see a therapist? Something's wrong with you. You're weird. Right?
I see a therapist.
Right? I do too. I'm just saying there
much
seems
stuff
to
they
be
do.
this weird double edge about growth. Now, I think your emotional ability to handle difficulties is imperative to the success that you achieve in the real world. Okay? So, when we're talking about pain, when we're talking about difficulty, this brings us back to kind of struggle. We're going through difficulty. There are beautiful lessons within this. It's not easy. This is not easy work. It's not like there's a manual like, oh, you want to get bigger biceps? You do this. You want to be able to gain stronger emotional intelligence? You do, I don't know, you go get in a relationship and then break up. You know, there's not a way that you can exercise that,
I've had
right?
a lot of those.
So that's
Must be
the
a
difficulty
professional.
is we have to take that stuff when we can get it. We have to learn to be able to develop tools and techniques
When you're
for being able
scared,
to grow this.
don't run away. The scare is important. Well, scared is just cared with a lisp. Okay? It means you actually want to do well. It means you care about it. Going on that first date. If you're not nervous, if you're like, oh, whatever. Well, obviously, it's not going to go so well. But if you're really nervous, it may not go so well. But when you're nervous, it means you care. It means you care about it. That's what we want. And when you're scared, you move into it because it's what you love. What? When your child has a difficult time, do you say, I can't deal with that. Go. Get out the door. Yes, and we're like, actually, I do. But the reality is that no, because you love it. You love that child. You're going to do whatever it takes. And that child's going to put you through hell sometimes. But you're still having it. How much hell did you put your parents through? Oh, she's over there going, oh, you have no idea. Obviously. But you love it. Like, hopefully you will love your parents. And if you don't, if there's a reason for not, there's something out there that you do. Don't run away. That's what I did most of my life. I broke up with every single one of my girlfriends my entire life because I ran away. I was scared. I was hurt as a child. I never got over it. See? The reality is here that we're not so alone. We all have something that we need to walk into.
Now, because we've taken this approach, because this is kind of the foundation that we've set up, not only our speaking, but also our nonprofit on, we had a very cool opportunity presented to us about 5 years
Yeah,
now?
I think 5.
5 years ago. There's a foundation. It's called the W.K. Kellogg Foundation.
No. 8 years ago. It went up in 2010. The video, yeah. Guys, I'm sorry.
Really?
We're getting too old. We don't remember. We have Alzheimer's, so.
Oh, I thought it was 2012. Anyway, okay, doesn't matter. A handful of years ago, the W.K. Kellogg Foundation came to us. It was started by the same man who started Kellogg cereal. I think right now they're currently the fourth largest foundation in the world.
Fourth, huge.
And they do a lot of great work all around the country, but primarily they focus their work in-state.
And they actually do work around the world, too, right?
Yeah. And so they came to us, and they said, listen, we love how you talk about how your struggles made you stronger. We love how you talk about how you accept the difficulties that were handed to you in your life. Because a lot of times, that makes you more focused, right? A tragedy happens. I had a friend of mine who called me a few months back and said, I just got diagnosed with testicular cancer, which is what I went through. When I was diagnosed, I had testicular cancer. And he was freaked out. And he started going, okay, I don't know what to do. Can you help walk me through this? I talked him through everything. And he started reevaluating his entire life. What's really important to me? The kids? Do I spend too much time at work? Am I not paying enough attention to my wife? He went through the treatment, got cleared, and then everything immediately went back to normal, right? He started to lose some of that focus. So the cool thing about being in a difficult situation is it can make you hyper-focus about what's really important.
Yes.
So they came to us and they said, listen, right now Michigan is in a huge slump, right? And every time we turn on the news, every time we turn on the media, every time we open a newspaper, it's just negative, bashing our government's about to be taken over, we can't figure out our education system, things that's going on with Flint, all this stuff. All things that certainly need to be addressed. However, what they weren't talking about was great programs that we have going on to help other people,
The people
who
who
are
are still
struggling.
achieving their education.
They don't talk about the community work, the volunteering, nothing, right? It's all hyper, fear, sell, right? And they were like, we were hoping that you would be willing to write a poem for your state.
Okay. And I was thinking, wait, let me get this straight. You want 2 ex-juvenile delinquents to write the poem for Michigan. Hell yeah. So we took it on. And we actually took that poem, and we've been brought out by the state in a variety of different departments to perform this poem. Pretty awesome to be up there with the governor, while at the same time, I could have been in prison or dead. And instead, here I am doing poetry. And that's just it. Some people are like, poetry is probably worse than prison or death, but it isn't. It's really cool. And I love this. So I got to tell you without a doubt that this is about that embracing our state. That the reason, like, look, you showed up here. It's not just that you showed up here. You're living. You're breathing. You know how many people didn't wake up this morning? That's what it's about. It's about embracing the moment that you have right now. If you don't, it could be gone in a second, gone.
So we want to perform that poem for you in honor of you, in honor of our state, and as a reminder that even though it's easier to focus on the negative, sometimes it's good to remind yourself what you are, what you're capable of, what your strengths are, because it can help reshape the way that you approach the rest of your day and the rest of your life. Because we all know what a cliche is.
It's something that at one time used to be novel, but it's been so overused that it's lost its original meaning.
Like when life hands you lemons.
Make lemonade.
And right now there are people in our own country trying to make
my state, your state, our state into a cliche.
And I'm beginning to think we've forgotten our original meaning.
Forgotten who we are.
What we're made of.
And what we believe in. We are a state that doesn't need to wait for life to throw us lemons.
Because we've got enough local farmers to grow our own.
And we don't need any sweeteners. See, here in Michigan, we know how to bite down on bitter times.
I believe in a pure Michigan, surrounded by one of the largest freshwater sources in the world.
But filled with the saltwater sweat of those who keep it flourishing. We are the cradle of life.
Neatly perched somewhere on this mitten
or scarf we call home.
And right now we're about
here. How can you not know where Kalamazoo is? There we go.
Here.
But when we sing the national anthem, we're the ones closest to everyone's heart. I believe in a Michigan where the people know how to use
this as well as
this.
And where every child has more than just a right to an education, but a reason to wake up and go
to a place where our teachers are more valued for the gift they provide to our children.
Because we don't just produce amazing automobiles and fill your bowls with cereal in the morning.
We produce children with piston-powered minds and give them red wings
so that one day they can teach their own children how to fly.
Across Sleeping Bear Dunes underneath Detroit overpasses, we believe in a Michigan that can hold us up
with the strength of 100 pictured rocks.
Even while the Dow Jones crumbles around us, we have been weathered by the worst storms and been carved out by glaciers over millennia. I believe in a Michigan that is green
and blue
and bright,
where over 150 lighthouses will make sure that no one is ever left out in the dark.
A Michigan where no matter how far out you go, you will always be guided back to shore, because we are the brightest star on the flag, wrapped up in the blue waters of our beliefs. And we believe in a Michigan that has 5 seasons: autumn,
winter,
spring,
summer,
and road work.
But don't worry, if you don't like the weather,
just wait 10 minutes, it'll change.
And that's the beauty of being here, in a state that is too alive to stay still, too proud to stand still.
While everyone gives up around us, we are Michigan, Michiganders, a state that is stunningly beautiful,
born from fire and ice,
a survivor of natural and human disaster that has pushed us forward even when we wanted so badly to hold back.
It is not a warm and fuzzy mitten.
It is an open hand slap to the face.
A reminder that even though we are surrounded by water, we are not an island.
We were never alone.
We are more than a state song or boundary lines.
And we are definitely more than a cliche.
Because I have not forgotten our original meaning.
And our state has a warrior's name worth remembering. It comes from the Ojibwe, Michigama, meaning great water. And we believe that our ancestors knew something we've forgotten, a belief.
That you never give up on an underdog.
That family comes first. And that home is where the heart is. We believe
that we will never forget who we are.
We believe that we will never forget what we're made of.
And most importantly, we believe
that we will never forget that Michigan deserves to be believed in.
15 minutes. Yeah, no,
all right, so I'm glad you liked that because it was a toss-up between that and the Ohio State poem. I'm totally joking. Are you from Ohio? Okay. Okay. Thanks for spending this time with us. You know, it's a blessing to be able to be up here. How am I kidding you? I mean, within the first few years, it didn't feel like a blessing. We saw an old tax document. We reported a negative $1,200 for like 3 years, the two of us. Yay! I remember having to beg, borrow, and steal, and try to figure out how to make it work, you know. And the thing is, I thought I'd come out of poverty. I left that home, you know, trying to sit at home in the kitchen. There were holes in the floor, so you had to be careful where you put the seat. I mean, that's how it was in my house. I mean, and here I was, thought I had my whole life, had my wife, right? She was like prom queen in high school, right? So that's my type, obviously not. I had a job right away. I had everything, I thought. But one thing I didn't realize was this. Have any of you here ever been told you're not going to make it? Have any of you here ever been told you're not good at something? I was in grade school, and I remember going to a special class because I had been labeled something no one told me. They called it learning disabled. I didn't know what that was. Am I learning disabled? They also labeled me EI. Do you know what that means? Emotionally impaired. Now that's true. I'm not going to lie. I have emotional issues. You can look at my psychology profile. It's huge, right? Okay, we get it. But learning disabled, I remember I was held back in reading. And my friend did a test, and he skipped like 3 reading grades. I was like, that's not fair. I can do it. And the teacher was like, no, Kirk, you can't. And I was like, give me the test. And guess what? I skipped 4 reading levels. Was I learning disabled? No. I just learn differently. That's what it is. That's what you're about. That's what we're all here about, to realize how we're each unique people. Because guess what? Learning disabled kid who's not going to make it out. I remember even in my senior year government class, my government teacher, what a great guy, called me out in front of the whole class and said, Kirk, I can't wait for you to graduate. And I was like, oh yeah, why? This is back in the day when I thought it was like cool. I was like, yeah, why? And he goes, because that way I can kick your... And I was holding my tongue. Because then he went in to talk about, because I had your sisters and you all were poor pieces of whatever. Boy, guess what? Guess what? Just recently, not only about a year ago, we got hired by my old high school. And guess what teacher was there? Oh, yeah. He came up, and I punched him right in the face. No, I didn't, but I wanted to. Actually, I probably would have been like, He was there. He had a cane, and he had a drawl. He had had a stroke. And I was like, wow, okay, I feel for this guy. He's changed, I bet. He went through something difficult, like Gabriel, like me. He must know now. Some people don't learn, do they? Because he came right up to me, and he goes, what are you doing here? I was like, to kick your ass, buddy. But no, that isn't why I was there. I wasn't even there. You know they say prove your haters wrong? Don't. Why are they worth your time? Prove yourself that you're worth it. All the people who told you can't make it, all the people who told you that you aren't pretty or that you aren't anything, and even that voice in your head that continues to look in the mirror and say, I'm not worth it. Get over it. Because you are. Because if you continue to think that, that's all the people, that's all you're going to hear from everyone else. So when he told me, why am I here? I thought, I'm here because I'm going to lift people up. And that's what we did. And I have him to thank for that. I got him to thank for that for sure.
So we want to close with one final piece that is a reminder for us that we are grateful to be here.
Oh, and then just so you know, I think we're going to have a Q&A for a little bit. So if you have questions you want to ask, any type, feel free to ask him.
You know, we all, I'm sure every single person in this room has a story. So first I just want to say thank you. We feel honored that you were willing to sit and listen to ours. I'm sure that everybody has one here. For me, you know, the first thing every single morning when I wake up, I go in normal routine, brush my teeth, bathroom. The first thing I see is that scar, right? It's inescapable for me to be able to hide those scars that I've been through. Some of us have them here or here. They're a little bit easier to hide sometimes, right? But every morning that I wake up, that is the first thing that I see. Now, do I go, oh my God, I'm so lucky to be here every single day? No, absolutely not. That's ridiculous. I have hard days. There are days where I'm like, man, I don't know if I have it in me today. I don't know if I want to do this. But most days, that is a reminder for me that I'm lucky. I'm lucky. I'm legitimately lucky to be not just here in front of you, but lucky to be here on earth. I made it through something that not a lot of people did.
Right.
And the reality for me is, if I hadn't been diagnosed with cancer, my unit in Germany was one of the first to be deployed to Afghanistan. So I don't know what would have happened. Maybe I would have made it out okay. Maybe I wouldn't have. Sometimes difficult things happen to us to redirect us. I honestly believe that. I remember when I was about halfway through my battle with cancer, I wanted to give up. Physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, everythingly exhausted. I called my father on the phone. I'm sure not a call that any parent wants to receive from their child. And I told him I wanted to give up. I didn't want to do it anymore. And I'm not going to tell you the exact conversation that I had with my father because I feel like that conversation was for that moment. But I will tell you what I took from that conversation because I feel like it was relevant for me and important. And what he said is essentially that things happen to us to help us see things, right? Not like the cliche, like everything happens for a reason, but things happen to help us see things we've been missing. Maybe we haven't been paying attention to, maybe that need to be reminded of in our lives. And sometimes, when you're a stubborn person like me, they have to be loud and impactful. And I am stubborn. Yeah. But it taught me, it helped remind me that there was something that I had left to do here. Now, a lot of us are taught, when we're 18, that's when all this starts. But it doesn't matter when you start something.
Not at all.
People are having kids in their 50s. They're starting careers over in their 60s. It doesn't matter when or how you do it. Don't let a society that determines that no matter who you are, if you have money, you're successful, dictate when and how you do things in your life. Maybe they come later for you. That's fine. Maybe you had to go through a few things in order to be ready for that to happen. I applaud all of you for coming here today. I applaud all of you for not letting whatever societal norm dictate you not go through with what you're doing right now.
Because there's a guarantee you're going to hit a roadblock again. Something's going to happen. So someone's going to throw something under the bus and you're going to wonder what's going to happen. Just let it be a reminder that you have the strength to be here. We all do.
And I know that a lot of, what we are talking about is very from the heart today, But I hope that you were able to take something from this and put it towards what you're doing. And this is the final piece.
Oh, no. Hey, actually, before the final piece, can I tell you a really embarrassing story about this guy? Yeah, okay. He wants to hear it. Here we go. So, guys, get this. The first time I competed against Gabriel, he came up to give me a man hug. Do you know what a man hug is? It's when one man hugs another man.
Also known as a hug.
Okay, whatever, dude. So for me, men do not do that. Men do not hug, okay? Men do not hug. And this guy, he will come up to strangers and be like, yeah. So here he is. He just comes up and he's like, hey, man, I want to congratulate you. And I was like, hey, man, what? I have a very obvious bubble that says, do not can come in here, right? Like, it's not even just like, do not come in here. It's like, don't, I'll kill you, right? Gabriel even said the first time he met me, he's like, he's a really nice guy, but he looks like if you bother him, he'll kill you. That's what he said. So I have that bubble, like, don't come in. But he's like, I don't care. He comes in that big Italian family, he's just like, boom, boom. Here comes this, he looks like a thug teddy bear. So here comes this, like, thugalicious teddy bear coming in there, and I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? And then he puts his big, those are burly arms, and he's kind of hairy. Puts it around me, and he's like this. And I'm like, but like on the inside, right? I'm not really screaming. Like I'm trying to return the hug, but I don't really know how to do it, right? I'm like, where do my arms go? So I'm like, oh.
Yeah, they weren't down there.
I grab his butt like this. I really return it. I'm like, I like you too. No, I always think he's shorter than me. Remember, he's not a Oompa Loompa, right? So here, I hug him, and then, guys, he's holding, and you know those family hugs? He gives me a family hug. I can feel his cheek touch mine.
No.
And it's like his beard. No, I'm not kidding.
No.
Okay, and then look at this. This is, now, you have to understand, like, you probably understand hugs. I don't. Hold down, like, what is this going on? And then he does this. He goes, get this. He goes,
No, stop,
yeah.
Stop.
No,
stop. You're so full of...
I'm
Listen,
not joking.
Kirk has been telling this story for about 10 years now.
Because bothered me.
And it's gotten so exaggerated.
No.
I'm waiting for him to be like, and then he wrapped his leg around me. And
Okay. So the reality of it is, like, it's a true story, mind you. It is a true story. I remember by feeling, okay?
Yeah,
Gabriel says he came up behind me and gave me this hug like this, patted me. I remember. So that's all I know. For me, look, this is what it's about. We're laughing. That's why I start with comedy and I end with comedy. I do it on purpose. Why? Because life is going to smack you around and kick you down. It's going to tell you it ain't worth laughing, it ain't worth smiling. But guess what? It is. No matter what happens out there. My dad said, when I die, Kirk, I want you to play the national anthem and flush my ashes down the toilet. And he means it. It's in his will. I'm kidding, but I'm telling you, right now. So we were like, damn. No, I'm telling you. The idea is that I was taught by my father, I can either be angry and punch things and break things and hurt myself, or I can use it for comedy. Use it for good. Smile. Someone said, Kirk, don't take life too seriously. You'll never escape it alive anyways. And I was thinking about all my friends who were dead. And I was like, now, why am I loud? Why am I funny? Because I have all these friends behind me who can't speak anymore. They're dead. I helped put them there. See, and if I help put people there and I can stand up with a loud voice and share with you, guess what you can do? You can do even more. You can do more than any of us. You have the ability to bring so much out of you. And I know that you can. I'm really excited to see it. I mean, we're going to watch you. We're going to come into your classrooms. We're going to watch you. We're going to put a camera in there. We're going to put a camera in your home. We're going to put a camera in your bedroom. Well, I'm just kidding. But we do want to see. We really want to see something. I wouldn't be here. We live in Kalamazoo. As a matter of fact, before we do this piece, I want to let you know, you guys know what Facebook is? So like 3 of you? Excellent. Well, we're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. How many people here do Pinterest? Okay, great. Yeah, we don't do that. We think that's stupid, but I'm glad you like it. Yes, I know. My wife loves it. You know what she loves doing? She pins doilies. I'm like, honey, what are you doing? She's like, I'm pinning doilies. What is it? Really? Well, I'm glad you figured it out. My wife doesn't know what to do. She has 8 billion doilies on her pinning wall. I'm like, honey, what is this for? She's like, I don't know. It looks good. Okay. So anyway, with that, I got to tell you, reality-wise, we are online. Everything, we're going to do a Q&A after this. And then we have business cards. So if you want to call, like if something's going on, and you just want to be like, man, I need some motivation, call Gabriel at 2 in the morning and let him know. I'm not kidding. You can call. That number is actually my line. It's my cell phone. If you need to, call me. If you want to talk, you want to figure out how to come out, you want us to come out somewhere else, you want to be able to like share something, you want to learn more, find us online. The card will give you that too, our website. And guess what? I brought wristbands. Normally we charge $50 a wristband, but we're going to give them away for free today. Yeah, thank you. All right. Normally we charge $25, but we do want to give them to you so that you can walk away with a memento of today.
So this is our final piece. It is just a reminder for Kirk and I that we are not only grateful to be here, but lucky to be alive.
You only live once.
Those are the words I had tattooed across my back when I was 17.
And he thought he knew everything.
Well, at least I got that one right, because today
I want to live. And I don't want to give you any suicidal rhetoric
about how I never get
why these things always happen to me when I haven't even lived long enough to experience what life is truly about.
Hell, even I know that my views will change enough so the me at 50 would want to sit down and talk to the me at
40 who would want to turn around and
give an earful to the me of today. And even though I love him, if I ever met that stubborn kid I called myself at the age of 17, I would be tempted to kick
his ass.
But today I want to live. I want to fall in love at first sight and feel that
rush of embarrassment as I walk up to her, stumbling over my syllables,
just so I can tell her how beautiful she is.
And I want to kiss the lips of some lovely lady who would leave me looking down on cloud nines like they were little cotton balls and experience the sheer ecstasy of her waking up next to me.
So I could tell her
just how much I worship
the ground she floats on.
Today I want to live.
I want to thank my mother for 9 months of stretch and 36 hours of labor.
Just to give birth to someone who would put her through another
18 years of the same crap. I want to call my father and tell him that even though he left us,
I love the man that he is going to be.
and today I can say in all honesty that he is my best friend. Today I want to live.
I want to love life like she never hurt me.
And give thanks for all that I've been given. Born into all blessings and I will ever truly know.
I want to strip down until I'm completely naked.
Natural in every way like the day I was born. Kept warm by the sun, I am energized and I can laugh at my nakedness. Hell, I'm just happy to be alive.
I want to stand barefoot on the ground and feel my feet sink deep into Mother Nature.
And if she truly is me madre, that makes me 1/4 Hispanic,
1/4 Cherokee,
plus half Earth, which means we are all truly related. And I want to be around long enough to watch my whole family grow. So today I want to live. Thank you.